then there's fire phase. Normally speaking, a unit that shoots cannot move, and a unit that moves cannot shoot. This is not like most war games. This game takes things a little bit more seriously and a little bit more realistically as far as what are you doing during those 6 minutes of time that the game represents, the game turn represents. If you were shooting, you weren't moving, and if you were moving, you weren't shooting. The difference here are going to be these Merkavas. These Merkavas have what they call stabilized guns, and they can fire on the move, is a long story short. Israeli units can usually use what's called the split move and fire rule, so even these M60s that don't have stabilized guns can fire and then move half. Meanwhile, these Syrian T-72s, T-62s, and definitely those Palestinian T-55s, if they fire, they're stuck. I do know that T-72s can sometimes fire on the move. Those are the Soviet ones. They have the stabilized guns and the ballistic fire control computers and things like that you see. They can fire on the move. These are not them. You'll also see, if we ever get around to it, if we ever want to play Gulf War version of this game, you'll see T-72s with stabilized guns, and they have a 28 attack factor instead of the 22 attack factor that we see here. This is because it's 8 years later. It's 1991 instead of 1982. That would actually be 9 years later. They're Iraqi T-72s. They have better Soviet ammunition. Some of them firing fin-stabilized ammunition. They don't have any depleted uranium, but they may have fin-stabilized ammunition and tungsten cores. So their attack factor goes way up, and they have stabilization systems in there. Again, these T-72s are bargain basement. You want to be a Soviet client state? Here's your signing bonus. Here's 1,000 T-72s. And needless to say, you're not going to get the best of the best. So anyway, I'm just going to fast forward time here a little bit. Because again, I don't want to be streaming all day. I know you guys have much better things to do on a Sunday afternoon. Some of you guys are in Sunday evening, I'm sure. Let's say that it's a little bit further on in the game. And some of these Merkavas are on the facing slope of this high ground, looking down at these T-72s. So it's still pretty far away. Again, 200 meter hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 kilometer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 kilometers, and a little bit more. These are 11 hexes away. These guys are easily 2 kilometers and change away from those Syrians, and they're on high ground. So these Syrians are, they could be in some serious trouble. So the Israeli fire phase would be, oh look, I've got 32, basically I got 6 times 32. My range is 12. Are they all within the range to hit those T-72s over there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, they are. They're all within 10 hexes. So you know what? Just for demonstration purposes, let's say the Israelis were a little bit smarter. Here's how big a difference tactics makes in this game. So hopefully you guys just saw that change. The Merkavas at the bottom there are deployed here, or are the Merkavas deployed there? Not much of a difference, right? Well, except now you're 11 hexes away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The Merkavas can still hit because their range is 12. The T-72s have a range of 10. They can't hit back at all. You got to be really careful in this game, folks. This game really tries to push modern, kind of combat tactics at realistic scales. This is why every time we do a podcast, I'm sorry, but every time I do it, we're always talking about distances and ranges and why sometimes miniature games have such a tough time getting this stuff right. Because the difference here is literally night and day. between all those Merkavas are going to get to fire at those T-72s free and clear, and those T-72s do not get a chance at all to shoot back. And why is that? Because they're 2,200 meters away instead of just 2,000 meters away. Find me a 50mm gaming table that represents 2,000 meters of ground. You're not going to do it unless you're playing on a tennis court. Again, there are games like GHQ Micro Armor that play in 6mm and that play like a scaled kind of a system where the terrain is not necessarily matched to the scale of the unit, so you can get away with that. Basically, you're playing this exact kind of game, except with miniatures instead of with hexes and counters. Obviously, this Merkava is not to scale with his hex. Again, these hexes are 200 meters across. This is not a game of Steve Jackson's Ogre, where we have a 200-meter tank trolling down the road. This isn't some kind of strange 40K vehicle where the vehicles are 600 feet long. That counter just represents where a platoon of 5 Merkavas happens to be sitting. If you want to engage in that kind of a game, great. That's really the only way to do these kinds of battles, realistically. So what kind of damage are these Merkavas going to be able to do here? Well, we've got 32, we got basically 6 32s. I actually need a calculator for this. It's 192 points. Israeli tanks get to double at certain ranges. Again, if you're within 1 hex and you're A-class is an armor-piercing weapon versus armored target versus non-armored targets versus flying aircraft. A-class weapon at 1 hex, you get doubled. That would be almost 400 points. But we're not within 1 hex. 2 hexes, it's doubled. It's either normal or double up to half range. It's more than half. I'm sorry, it's half or normal at more than half range. It's all this jibber jabber, guys. This chart is not really as complicated as it looks. It just tries to provide everything that you could possibly need to run a game between 1935 and 2020. Is pretty much what this chart will allow you to do. In any one particular game, you're going to be using about 10% of this chart. Because, believe it or not, in the Spanish Civil War, the Germans did not have laser-guided bombs. But this chart includes that because you might be playing something in the Ukraine in 2015, and your next game you might be in the Six-Day War in 1967. So this chart's not quite as scary as it might look. Long story short, I'm at almost extreme range for these Merkavas. I don't get any bonuses. Is the takeaway. So we're looking at a grand total of what's that? 192 points. 192 points against. Now, how many tanks do I want to engage, folks? I'll let you be the tank commander for a second. If you guys are still on the stream and you guys want to let me know what you want to engage here, you are in command here, so to speak, of 30 Merkavas. How many times do you get to say that? You have 30 Merkavas on a high ground, on a ridge. You see 15 T-72s. You see a whole bunch of BMPs coming at you as well, loaded with infantry and Sagger anti-tank missiles. And you see some Gazelle anti-tank helicopters for the Syrian army carrying AT-5 Spandrels. Okay, so I'm going to let the stream pause for just a second. If anyone wants to say, do you engage the T-72s? And if so, how many? Do you engage the BMPs? That's pretty much all you can reach. So T-72s or BMPs, guys. So we have orders from our battalion commander saying that we're going after the T-72s. Order received. Wilco at this time. All right, so all 30 Merkavas are going to shoot. Again, you could split your fire up any way you want, but just for simplicity's sake, we're going to put all 192 points against those T-72s. If we attacked one T-72 platoon with all 30 Merkavas, we are going to divide that 192 attack factor by 18 defense. It comes out to almost 11-to-1 odds. That T-72 literally never hears a shot that kills him. Or we can engage 2 of the T-72s. All we do is we then have to divide our 192 attack factor by 36, basically 2 18s. That gives us a 5-to-1 chance. That's pretty good. We might kill both platoons. 192 divided by all three. That's what, 54? 54 knocks it down to 3-to-1 odds. 3-to-1 odds isn't that great. So, we have orders to engage T-72s. I'm going to make that's from Brigade Commander. I'm the Merkava Battalion Commander. I'm going to make that call to engage 2 of those T-72s at 5-to-1 odds. There is no 5-to-1 odds table, so you use the next lowest one. That's going to be 4-to-1 odds. So as you can see here, there's a lot of X's in this column. You don't see a dispersal for a pin until I roll a 6. So basically, if I roll anything but a 6, that's going to be the end of both of those T-72 platoons. And sure enough, I roll a 2. That's going to be 2 brewed up T-72 platoons. That's 10 T-72s. That's probably not all 10 tanks actually burning or killed, but it's 2 half companies of T-72s rendered combat ineffective. And you know what I didn't do? Remember where they were in this X here. So, folks, that's how a fire phase works. Super quick, super easy. If we zoom in a little bit, you will notice, again, whenever I make up one of these scenarios, I always send it to the player like at least a night ahead of time so he has a chance to study the map. Because do I have to roll to kill at 2-to-1 odds? Actually, Jen, at 2-to-1 odds, that 2 that I rolled would have killed all 3 platoons. At 3-to-1, that 2 would have killed all 3, but that's gambling. I mean, if I knew ahead of time that I was going to get a pretty good roll, I would have engaged all 3. But that's bad policy. Honestly, you want to engage at least on the 4-to-1 table if you want to be sure to hit and kill what you're aiming at. And those T-72s don't even get to shoot back, because again, they're out of range. This is where you see Soviet equipment versus Western equipment and the incredible differences. That sometimes it's a little hard to recreate on a miniature table because the distances are difficult to work out or difficult to properly represent in miniature. Okay, we're just going to jump around and try out a few more things just for fun. We're going to get some counterfire here from the Syrians, the BMPs that are trying to use that Wadi for cover. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, this northernmost group of Merkavas is in range of all 3 of these BMP platoons. So all 3 of these BMP platoons are going to fire their one and only 30-point G strike. This is the AT-3 Sagar anti-tank missile that all these BMPs carry. They just don't carry very many of them. In game terms, they have enough to have 1 complete fire phase. So that's 30 times 3, that's 90 points. 90 points against 32. That's not quite 3-to-1. And that's not good enough, because again, 3-to-1 is not a good column to be attacking at. And those are guided missiles with heat-style warheads, or with heat-based warheads, which means that little asterisk that I was talking about at length at the beginning of the stream, after that 32 defense factor, is going to apply. Basically, it's a 25% penalty assessed against the G-class weapon. Because not only is the armor 32 points thick, it's also chemically and metallurgically designed to defeat specifically guided weapons or any kind of a weapon that has a heat-based warhead. So these Gazelles are going to fire their AT-5s. That's one strike from each of them. That's their whole load. They only carry one missile strike for each of those. That's going to be 40 plus the 90 coming off of those 3 platoons of BMPs. That's a total of 170 points. I'm going to engage, 170 points. That's a lot of anti-tank missiles flying at those Merkavas. Divided by, 170, and again, that's a 25% penalty assessed because of the composite armor. That knocks it down to 128. 128 divided by 32 is just barely 4 to 1. And the Syrians roll a 2. That is 1 platoon of Merkavas knocked out. So just for fun, and because everyone loves Iron Eagle, we're going to say that those more laser-guided, more G-class missile strikes were coming in from these MiG-23s. The 3 remaining F-16 Falcons will now come in and try and counter-engage. Again, they've used up their laser-guided bombs, but they still have their Sparrows and their Sidewinders. I'm not going to bother with putting the guys on the counter. I mean, the range on this thing is 60 hexes. Pretty much from anywhere on the board they can fire. So they're just going to go ahead and fire from here. They're far enough away where they don't have to worry about any ground fire. That's the only thing they really have to worry about. The deadliest Syrian anti-air missiles and ground defense systems have already been taken out anyway. So what do we say these were? These 30 points air-to-air missile strike against a 30 points, and I've got 3 left because that one guy had to bug out and go home. So I got basically 90 points. I'm going to put against let's see. I could have 3 1-to-1s. I could have 3 1-to-1s. I could have 1 2-to-1 and 1 1-to-1. Or I can have 1 3-to-1. I'm going to go ahead and have the 1 3-to-1. I'm going to try and shoot down one of these MiG-23s. And with a 2, I got it. So 30, 30, 30 equals 90. Divided by 24 is 3-to-1 odds. It's almost 4-to-1 odds, but not quite. And on the 3-to-1 table, that's enough to score a kill. So that is a MiG-23 splattered on the ground. I mean, maybe the pilot's punched out, but that's basically, again, these planes are usually in pairs. That's a pair of MiG-23 shot down. And last but not least, we are looking at these last 2. Sitrep, I see your question. Give me 1 second here. These 2 guys here that did not get shot down are going to release their ordnance. Their 2 40-point G missile strikes. That's 80. Knock it down to 60. That's not even 2-to-1 odds. They're going to go ahead and take a swing. They basically pinned down 1 platoon of Merkavas, but they didn't kill it. And that's pretty much going to be it for fighters. Again, the game is never really about fighters. It's just more for color and to give you some idea of what air power is like from the ground commander's perspective.